Hey, what's up, Mafias? Welcome back to The Commute, and in this video I am going to explore nested classes and inner classes for you. This is something interesting that I have been confused a lot about, when to actually use inner classes, when to use nested classes, what it is all about, and how do you even use nested classes in your actual project. Let's break them down and hopefully you guys really understand it. So the nested classes. Nested classes is super interesting, something that very distinguishable. A very distinguishable gentleman, that's what nested classes are. Let me just write them down. Inner classes. Let's first understand the nuances of what is actually a nested class and what is an inner class. Once I have understood what nested class and inner class is, let's try to understand why do we use them and how do you even use them in the real life project. So this is a class, let's just say user. Okay, we have a simple class called user. Right, now when a class is inside of another class, that is called the nested class, just like a nested loop. So loop inside of a loop, a class inside of a class, that's just a nested class. Let's just say user profile. Okay, now this is called a newbie error. The class should always start with the caps, do not start with small letters. So this is a class again, let's just say class. Now this is an nested class, simple as that. Now what is an inner class? Let's just say user class build. Okay, and if you put inner keyword in front of it, it becomes an inner class. Simple as that. These two are nested and inner classes. This is the concept. Okay, first of all, let's try to explore nested classes and when do we use them. Okay, let's just assume that you have a user profile, right? And for example, there is something called user, then there is something called product, right? Product, right? And we have some kind of class, ID, some kind of ID which tracks for what kind of user this is. Either it's a paid user or some other kind of user, right? And there's another class called ID here. Now as you can see, these two IDs are completely different, but they have the same name. To avoid that from happening, that the clashing of these two IDs from happening, we declare inner classes. And the thing is, this ID class has been encapsulated inside of the product class. It cannot be accessed from outside. So here we have a simple encapsulation, and that's why nested classes are preferred. I hope you understand this example, and this is a very simple example of nested classes. Let's take back the example of user, right? We have this class ID, then class user profile for the class of user. Now this is the user, and every other class that is related to that particular user is inside of that user itself, user class itself. I know that the user class should have a single responsibility of making everything that is related to user. That's what user class is for. Now this ID is responsible for only user ID, right? This is only responsible for user profile. It might be just be name. Let's just suppose this is a data class, right? Let's just say var name of type of string and var age type of string. Simple as that, right? Now this is a data class, right? And this is encapsulated. It means that the user contains all of the properties that we need to make a user. What we can also include is some kind of user history, like user history, some kind of user order history, like the orders that you place in Amazon or maybe in Myntra, whatever you like, whichever e-commerce store that you use. This is a simple example of user history, right? Now this class, this particular class inside of the user, is responsible for user order history. Now this makes the separation very easy, and we can easily find the logic. For example, if we want to pinpoint that there is some kind of crash happening somewhere in the user order history, we have no idea where this particular class is, but I know where user class is. So I can go into the user class and I can find the user order history, because all of the functions, all of the stuff that user requires is inside this particular class. That's why the nested classes are important. And one more thing that I wanted to discuss was that nested classes can be used to get the static-like behavior that we get in the Java. For example, let's just say that user order history is some kind of class right here, and there's a function which says print order. Okay, doesn't expect anything. Okay, let's just say println order history. Simple as that. Right, now let's just say user dot, and we can access all of the functions, all of the classes that I have been making inside of this particular class without even initializing this class, making an object of this class. The user, we don't need to create the user object to access the nested classes inside of it. So I can just directly access it. User order history. Now, of course, I need to make this object because the user order history is a class itself. I can say dot print order. Simple as that. And it should print my order. As you can see, order history. So it's just like a static like behavior that we observe in Java. Hopefully you understand this thing. This is why all of these inner classes and nested classes are used. Separations. Yes, good separations. Management, come on. Management, yes. So these are some of the features that nested classes present us, and this is what nested classes are used for. Hopefully this makes sense, and you can see the order history right here, printing. Hopefully this makes sense. Let's try to explore inner classes right now. Let's try to remove this thing, and let's try to use inner classes. So inner classes are similar to the nested class, which means that we can have user order history here. Simple as that. And what we can do is just say inner in front of it. So what does this particular keyword actually bring? Let's just say our member type, right? And this is supposed to be a string, and it will be like, this is a premium member, right? This is a member type. Now what we can do is say if member type. Oh, okay. First of all, we need to create a function called order, right? Order. And you say if member type is equal to premium, then println free delivery. As you can see, this is a very simple way of making inner classes. Now what happened here? As you can see, this class can access the variables that I've created above it. It means it can access its parents' variables without even making the user object right here. That's what inner keyword is used for. Hopefully you're understanding this. Let's just say user dot user order history, and of course this is a class, and it is supposed to be in a class. It cannot be accessed directly. The constructor of the inner class can be called only with a receiver of containing class. As you can see, the inner classes cannot be directly accessed without some kind of object creation, without initialization of the class. I have to initialize it, but in case of nested classes, you don't actually need to do that. We have a class right here, user order history, another class, then order, and it will print the order. As you can see, free delivery. Simple as that. So hopefully this makes inner classes much more clear to you. Let's now look at some of the documentation of nested and inner classes inside of our Kotlin documentation. As you can see, simple. Nested and inner classes. Classes can be nested in other classes. It's simple as that. Class outer, then we have bar. This is a nested class. And as you can see, without even creating the instance of this, any object of outer, I can directly access the nested class. Hopefully you can see it. Hopefully you can see it now. So I can directly access the nested class and the nested function right here. As you can see, directly outer.nested without even initializing it. So this is the inner class example, class outer, some kind of bar variable. This is a private variable. Now we have inner class, and as you can see, the bar is accessible inside of this inner class, and I have to initialize this class right now. I cannot directly call inner. I have to initialize the outer, then call inner.foo, and that will print the one. And we can also create anonymous inner classes. As you can see, we have directly created an object here and inherited from some kind of mouse adapter. It might be some kind of interface that we are trying to override functions with. Mouse clicked, mouse entered, simple as that. And this is how we create anonymous inner classes. Hopefully this makes sense. So this was the documentation of nested and inner classes. If you want to read it, you can read it yourselves. And this was super interesting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed nested nested and inner classes, and it made everything a little more clear to you. And this is it for now. I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.